Welcome on in. This will be season 6, episode 32 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's going to be the 2024 Italian GP preview show. And you've got Andy, and I'm along with my normal preview co-host, Cody, tonight. Cody is telling me he is almost fully all the way back and going to the office tomorrow. So I'm sure he's uber excited about that from the unfortunate COVID experience. But how you doing otherwise?
I'm doing really well. Yeah, mostly healthy. Unfortunately, that means I can't keep using COVID as an excuse to work from home. But it was going to happen eventually, and at least now, yeah, I can feel good about getting out of the house. And got to go out and watch a really good lightning show yesterday. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it had been ridiculously hot, and then I was leaving actually downtown last night, and as I was doing so, I watched the storm roll in, and it looked, I think someone on the radio around here called it looked like Lord Voldemort was riding into Chicago in a cloud form. And boy, once it opened up, we had some raining. Rain like cats and dogs, but so it's a little bit cooler. It's supposed to be better weather heading into the weekend, at least here. But that's not why everybody's all here. They're all here because we're going to hop into the Italian GP because we have our back-to-back after the long summer break. So if you found our show, welcome along. You can find us, as always, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and, of course, YouTube. At Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all of that. If you enjoy what you're seeing and you like what you're hearing, you can smash the subscribe button or you can leave us a like. And if you're on your favorite podcasting app, a 5-star review would go a long way into helping us come up a little bit better in search results and get our content to you that much quicker. You can email the show, as always, chat now at outlapf1.com. As just a general thank you to everybody who does support the show monetarily. Thank you so much to Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to start to help promote the show and help us out with some money, you can see our link tree. You can see our anchor page, $1 or $5. What does that do? All goes into either updating equipment we already have or acquiring some new equipment so we can do some cool new things with that. So it all goes into making the show better and ultimately helping the experience for you, the listener, which is why we all do this. Last reminder, you can get 20% off and free shipping from the good folks at Manscaped with our code OUTLAP. That's OUTLAP, all one word. Okay, so the big story that happened between Zandvoort and now is, of course, the Haas trucks being able to leave Zandvoort. No, that's not quite it. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But the other big story, Logan Sargent, our American F1 driver, is no longer an American F1 driver. He's still an American. He's still alive, but he's no longer an F1 driver, at least for now. He is out at Williams. The FP3 crash in Zandvoort, as we talked about in our last review, where he pretty much destroyed the car, all but the chassis. That proved to be one fault too many. And James Vowles has had enough and has pushed the button to replace him with Franco Colapinto, a 21-year-old rookie, but in the Williams Academy. I believe this was his first year in Formula 2. The quote that James Vowles says, quote, "To replace a driver mid-season is not a decision we have taken lightly, but we believe this gives Williams the best chance to compete for points over the remainder of the season. We have just brought a large upgrade to the car and need to maximize every point-scoring opportunity in a remarkably tight midfield battle. We also believe in investing in our young drivers in the Williams Driver Academy, and Franco is getting a fantastic opportunity to demonstrate what he is capable of across the final 9 rounds of the season. This is undoubtedly incredibly tough on Logan, who has given his all throughout his time with Williams, and we want to thank him for his hard work and positive attitude. Logan remains a talented driver, and we will support him to continue his racing career for the future. I know that Franco has great speed and huge potential, and we look forward to seeing what he can do in Formula One." And from the guy who now is going into the seat, Franco Colapinto said, quote, "It is an honor to be making my Formula One debut with Williams. This is what dreams are made of. The team has Such an amazing history and a mission to get back to the front, which I can't wait to be a part of. Coming into an F1 season, mid-season will be an enormous learning curve, but I'm up for the challenge, and I am fully focused on working as hard as I can with Alex and the team to make it a success. Wow. So, mid-season driver swap. So anybody who had that bet, congratulations, you win. I didn't think we were actually going to see it, but I guess one crash too many at the end of the day. But Cody, what's your thought on all of this?
Yeah, it took a bunch of times of saying it with a bunch of different incidents, but finally, the last nail in the coffin actually happened. So yeah, it's too bad that he is out in the middle of the season. It definitely does not reflect well on your time in Formula One if you're getting kicked out partway through a season. But he has not been performing well at all. Hasn't been performing very strongly, since last season, and it seems Williams is getting tired of the big bills that come with the car getting destroyed. So I think it's a little bit of an interesting choice to go with a rookie who has never been in Formula One before, because he might just still keep wrecking the car. I don't know. Maybe they're banking on that he's gonna, baby this thing home for the rest of the season. I do think it's cool that Williams is bringing up someone from within their Formula One academy to take this seat, but it's also kind of strange because both of their seats are filled for next year. So it's only a temporary thing. Even if he does really well and shows that he's a very talented driver, where's he going to go? He's going to get this time to shine, and then he's going to be back out of a seat and off to who knows where. So it is a little bit of a weird situation, but at the very least he's getting that shot, which is really cool.
And I think it is the strangeness of the situation, which is why I think they actually ended up where they are. They didn't have to go sign a new contract. He was already under contract with Williams. He was already a member of their academy, and he was already there, and he was already going to be there. So, all of the boxes, 1, 2, 3, you don't have to shell out a whole lot of money to get a Mick Schumacher, or you don't have to have a loan out, with Red Bull, or some sort of a fee that you have to pay them to go get Liam Lawson for 9 rounds. And you've got complete control over, this Franco for the next 9 races. And it's probably, if you're going to do this, it's probably the way to do it. Had you put Liam Lawson in, and let's just say Liam Lawson goes out and scores 8, 10, 12 points. And then now you're in a rather bit of a quandary, considering you've already signed 2 effectively now veteran drivers. You've got Alex Albon and now Carlos Sainz coming over. So, what does that then do? And of course, with it being a Red Bull thing, it's just going to drive, that fan base even more crazy than it already is when it comes to Liam there. So I think this is the least amount of drama that they could probably have done while still doing a pretty dramatic move. So I understand the mechanics of the move and kind of how this fell out. I've said many times about Logan Sargent, I thought, I remember getting the announcement at Coda, and I remember saying yes and oh no, because it was kind of always, it seemed, destined to get here. He came into a team that was really foundering at the back. And driving a race car is, at least from what I can tell, a lot about confidence. And if you're not ever confident in the car or the machinery or the equipment, it's really hard for you to show your best. And Logan has had not the best. He hasn't had very good cars in his entire time at Williams. And it's kind of ironic that when he finally starts to get one, they finally start to bring out the upgrades. This is what happens, and this is how it ends. I always kind of, this was my fear. I think it was just the worst case scenario. Do I think that there's still a career there? Yeah. I mean, I've said many times, I think he could be a more than capable reserve if he wants to hang around the F1 paddock. And I also think there's maybe an aspiring career in the IndyCar series if he wants to come back over here and race with those guys, because that's a series that's just as uber competitive as anything else.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool to see him have a career in IndyCar. But like you and I were talking about before we hopped on here, if he goes over to IndyCar, it's just going to keep furthering that narrative that IndyCar is the graveyard where failed F1 prospects go to keep a career going. But at the same time, everyone gets more level cars, so maybe it would give him a better chance to show what he is really capable of. But we'll just have to see.
Well, and there's been some good stories even out of IndyCar of, people going from F1 academies. Christian Lundgaard will be racing, I think, with Arrow McLaren next year. So, he's going to be, that's a high profile team. You've got Linus Lundqvist doing great things with Ganassi, which is another high profile team. So he's come into that seat. Marcus Ericsson continues to show well with Andretti. So, there's still lots of good stories, and like I said, you can still have a really good career. Alex Rossi's a perfect example. The prior American in F1 who didn't quite, who got pushed out because his team basically went belly up, and ended up coming over and then winning the Indy 500 the next year. So you can still have a really good and solid racing career. There's also sports cars. There's probably WEC opportunities. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see Logan Sargent at Le Mans in some way, shape, or form with one of those classes of cars at some point, maybe an IMSA drive or something like that. So the rumor that I keep hearing is because there is a new IndyCar team coming on the grid next year in Prima, who have ties to academies and driver development and all that. Maybe having Logan Sargent as one of its two drivers next year. So that was the rumor that I read a few times, more than once. I'm not saying that I know anything, but that might be what ends up happening. So we'll follow it. And obviously, it sucks as an American podcast here not to have an American on the grid anymore. But I do hope that this is just a temporary thing with Americans not being on the grid, and we can have one to cheer for in a much better circumstance. I'll say that. And our other bit of news, the Haas team did manage to get out of Zandvoort. International banking crisis over. Ural Kaylee received their payment. Yay. And we can all move on with our lives. It doesn't look like Haas is going to be affected. Logistically, I think they only lost basically what it amounted to 8 hours of transportation. Had it gone any longer, it could have affected this weekend. But cars are in Monza from what I understand, and all is good to go at Haas.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to go any other way. They weren't, even if they didn't want to pay it, they're not going to let that get in the way of them, keeping this ball rolling. So the only thing that could have made it bad is if somehow things didn't happen where their payment got received or whatever. But yeah, I think they would have found the quickest way to work that out no matter what. So yeah, crisis averted, I guess, and. I haven't heard a whole lot of people talking about it, so I guess nobody really thought it was going to blow up into this big mess. But yeah, we can move on, and hopefully don't have to talk about Earl Colley anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It was a rather interesting route that the digital money took, because it went from a U.S. bank to a British bank, and then a British bank to a bank in the UAE, that ended up transferring it then to the bank in Russia. So it did have to do a circuitous route, but it got there. It worked. Yeah, exactly. Where there's a will, there's a way. But anyway, so we're gonna just go ahead and drop our green flag and get into our track facts brought to us by the good folks at Pirelli Motorsport. And of course, like a moron, what have I not done? I've not even touched the soundboard. Bad podcaster, Andy. Oh no. And of course, it's all messed up because it's all in a different spot. Here we go. All right. So Cody, tell us about, let's see if I can get all my Italian right, the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza.
Yeah, pretty good pronunciation there. This weekend we are heading to Italy for the Italian Grand Prix. Funny how that makes sense. The track is the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, located in Monza, and number of laps around the circuit 53. Track length is 5.793 kilometers. That's 3.6 miles and consists of only 11 turns. Tire selection for this race from Pirelli is the C2 for the hard, C3 for medium, and C3 for the soft. And the track characteristics from Pirelli are a 3 out of 5 for traction, 4 out of 5 for braking, 2 out of 5 for lateral load, 3 out of 5 for tire stress, 4 out of 5 for track evolution, 4 out of 5 for asphalt grip, 2 out of 5 for asphalt vibration, and a 1 out of 5 for downforce. The qualifying lap record under the current configuration of the circuit goes to Lewis Hamilton, who set the record of 1 minute 18.887 seconds back in 2020 with that monster of a Mercedes car, while the race lap record was set quite a while ago at this point because it was set by Rubens Barrichello with a 1 minute 21.046 seconds. Most wins at Monza is a tie between Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton with 5 wins apiece, followed by Nelson Piquet with 4 wins, and then a whopping 8 drivers with 3 wins here, which includes some greats like Sebastian Vettel, Rubens Barrichello, Juan Manuel Fangio, and Alan Prost. And then even more drivers than we care to name here, 11 drivers tied with 2 wins each. As far as constructor wins goes, you'll be happy to hear that Ferrari has the most with 20, followed by McLaren with 11, Mercedes with 9, Alfa Romeo with 8, and Williams with 6. What's the circuit like, Andy?
All right, in one word, in Italian, that would be rapido. Formula One's fastest ever lap was set at this track at Monza, with Williams driver Juan Pablo Montoya's 260.6 kilometer an hour effort during practice for the 2004 Grand Prix, which should give you some idea of the nature of the track, what the locals call La Pista Mágica. Cars are on full throttle for 80% of the lap and hit their VMAX on the circuit's 1.1 kilometer start finish straight. From there, they roll off into the historic park section, where a series of big stops into tight chicanes give the brakes a really good workout. And as for the weather, all I would say about the weather, it's very caliente. It's going to be really hot this weekend. For qualifying, partly cloudy, very hot, high of 93. That is hot for an F1 race. Winds, not a lot of help from the winds either. Light and variable, a scant 1% chance of rain. And for the race on Sunday, also very hot, a little bit cloudier, so that maybe gives some relief, but not much. Sunshine and clouds mixed, hot, high of 91, winds light and variable. I think I saw a 5% chance of rain, so doesn't look like we're going to see the intermediates or the full wets here. One thing to note about the track itself, they did change the first chicane, so that is something to look out for over the course of they made it more of an actual corner versus just that straight line to try to prevent drivers from going off on the inside. So we'll have to watch for that and see kind of how that affects the wheel-to-wheel action, as that is a major overtaking point. All right.
Having sat in Texas in the heat for the race when it's over 90 degrees, I can tell you, it's not the greatest when it's that hot. It makes it a little harder to enjoy yourself.
Especially if you're on one of those aluminum, or as they would say over there, aluminium, stands with, just a seat on it.
Reflecting up at you. Yeah, that's the worst.
Woo. So it's going to be a hot one. Yeah, I mean, hydration is key. I know that there's only a couple ways in and out of that circuit. So, if you do happen to be going and happen to hear the sound of my voice, look out for your fellow fan. Bring lots of water. We all want to try to enjoy the race, but we all want everybody to go to and from the race safely. So I certainly hope that can all happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We will get into our predictions, which is back. We're going to actually see how we do in the second half of the season. So come on back. You won't want to miss that. And we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back in. This is season 6, episode number 32 of the Outlap F1 podcast. check my notes sometimes on that. It's the 2024 Italian GP preview show. You've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight, and we just caught you up on the news and looked at the track facts. So now it is time. It is finally back. Our Choose Your Champion predictions game. And as we are apt to do, we will start with the pole sitter, and the 2023 pole sitter was a Ferrari. That was Carlos Sainz. Do we think the Tifosi will be really happy on Saturday, or is it back to normal service resumed, or is the Lando momentum building? Cody, what's your thought?
It is fun that there are so many options and they're all possible. But I think we're actually going to go back to a Max Verstappen pole. The Red Bull last year was really good with the straight line speed and those kinds of passes, and that is everything we see at Monza. The really low downforce configurations with those teeny tiny skinny rear wings. I think this is going to be a really good track for the Red Bull. It's going to make them look really good again. So I think we're going to see Max back in front to start.
All right, very good. I hemmed and hawed on this one. As you can obviously tell if you're watching on YouTube, you can see I'm in my full papaya regalia. I've gone full into the orange swimming pool as they are. I want to predict Lando Norris for this so bad, especially given the form. But as I mentioned last time out, gotta call it back just a little bit. I can't go full meatball yet. I've been telling everybody don't do it, so I'm going to hold back. And I'm going to say I think somehow Max pulls it out. I do agree with you, Cody, that I think the Red Bulls, where they are strong, are in the straight lines. This is straight line central. I also think McLaren have a little bit to prove to the general F1 world. Can they really race in these types of conditions? Where they've been great is on circuits that have been kind of tight and twisty. The Miami circuit's got some tight and twisty bits, and Zandvoort's got some tight and twisty bits. So does Hungary. So where they've won, it's been hot, tight, twisty bit races. That's not necessary. Well, we got the hot, but besides that, I don't think we have any of those other characteristics. So, I can't see, at least in qualifying trim, McLaren getting it done just yet, although I will be rooting for it very vociferously from my chair here. They may hear me in Monza, let's put it that way.
I'm also going to have to use full meatball in my daily life. I like that.
Yeah, you'll know full meatball mode when you see it. Let's put it that way. That's what you saw at Coda last year. That was what that was. That was a taste of full meatball.
Well, I would love to see that again because that was very exciting, and we might be able to fingers crossed, first McLaren constructors since what was it 1998 or something. That would be full meatball.
Oh, I had. When I was talking with Deanna when she was over there, I said, I'm going to find whatever extra money is in our show budget to get her to go to every race now, because apparently she's the good luck charm. We got to have her there. So, but we'll see if we can pull that off. But anyway, our next prediction is our pole lap time. Last year's lap time was a 1 minute 20.294. And that was set, of course, by Carlos Sainz. So, Cody, what do you have here?
I'm going to go just a touch faster than last year. I don't think we're going to go too much faster because you're already running super low downforce. So I don't know how much more you're going to be able to squeeze out of the aerodynamics since last year. I am going to go a little faster. So I'm going with a 1 minute 20.007.
All right, very good. I like the 007 reference. Da, da, da. And wasn't Red Bull sponsored by one of the 007 movies at one point too?
They were, yeah.
They were. Yeah. Okay. So I like your hook there. That's good. I do think it's going to be one of those things where we're going to get close to last year's lap time, but I think because the track is going to be so hot, you're not going to be able to get that extra little bit of grip or that extra downforce. It's going to be one of those, does the tire make it all the way to the end type situations? I have a funny feeling. So I'm going a bit slower than last year, but not by much. I got a 1 minute 20.387. All right, so for the 2023, our podium saw Max Verstappen in P1. Sergio Perez, this was the last time I think we saw Red Bull 1-2. Came home in P2 last year. And Carlos Sainz made the Tifosi happy and pulled off a podium for the Scuderia here. Cody, what's your thought on how the race is going to pan out?
I do think we're going to see a Max Verstappen win. And if we don't see a Max Verstappen win, I'm really curious and about how the rest of the season is going to go, because I figured this is one where he's got a good shot, despite the car kind of falling off. I do think we're going to see Lando Norris in P2, though, still extremely strong with the McLarens. And I'm going, for the Tifosi happiness here by putting Charles Leclerc on P3.
I should amend my statement. That's not the last Red Bull 1-2. I think it was Bahrain. I'm pretty sure they were 1-2. Maybe even Saudi Arabia. I don't know. But it was. I know. I'm pretty sure it was the last one for 2023. But whatever. It was one of the last times we've seen that much dominance from Red Bull. Let's put it that way. This was when they were kind of at their height of it.
This was the last of that 10-race streak for Max.
Yep. Yeah, before Singapore. I mean, I actually looked back at it, and it's so Max Verstappen. It all lines up so nicely on the picture of the race results, and then you see Carlos Sainz, and it looks so odd on the calendar. But that's not the case this year, and that's the good thing, is we don't have to worry about all of that, at least for the way that this season is shaken out. I gotta ride the hot hand. I gotta say this is. If I'm going to go half meatball, and I'm not going to say he's going to get the pole, but I do think he's going to get the win, because he has gone well here before when they've gotten the car right. So I will say Lando Norris to come home over Max Verstappen. I think Max is going to keep it close. I don't think we're going to get a huge shift in the Drivers' Championship. I think Lando's just going to have to peck at it and keep going at it here time by time by time. But I do think that is what's going to happen. So I've got Lando P1, I've got Max P2. And here I've got Oscar Piastri getting out of the dirty air and getting on the podium this time, god dang it, to come home P3. Papaya reigning supreme in Monza. All right, and our fastest lap in the driver, speaking of Oscar Piastri, he set the fastest lap here last year with a 1:25.072. Cody, what's your thought, and who do you think is? What do you have for your time, and who do you think is going to set it?
I think we're going to go just like the pole, a little faster than last year. I'm going with the time as a 1:24.617, and I actually got Oscar Piastri doing it again. I would not be surprised if he ended up with if he is going to be finishing in that like P3, P4 type position, might have a really good gap to whoever is behind him, and McLaren's going to be trying to squeeze out every point that they can for that constructor. So I wouldn't be surprised if the opportunity presents itself that they pit him near the end of the race for fresh tires to get that fastest lap.
Yeah, that's a very good point. One guy who I think does try to get these fastest lap points, regardless of where he is Lewis Hamilton. And I do think he will be. I think he was going to be kind of motivated that he didn't get it last time out after Lando pipped him right at the end there. So I've got Lewis Hamilton taking the fastest lap, and 1:24, 0.987 is my lap time for that. Okay, so we will move into our bonus picks. And because we had these last year, I didn't bother to change them. So I think they're pretty good. I went P5, P10, and P15. So a good smattering across the grid. I'll go first with these. So for P5, I'm going to go George Russell, because I do think the Mercedes will be competitive, but I don't know that they'll be that elite thing, and the Ferraris are going to be in the mix around there too. Pierre Gasly I've got coming home in P10. Let's say back-to-back points finishes for the Alpine team. That would be a good story. And P15, can't pick on Logan Sargent anymore, but I will pick on the American team. I'm going to have a Haas back here with Kevin Magnussen coming home in P15. Cody, what you got?
I'm not going to lie to you. I just realized that I had forgotten to populate a couple of these, so I came up with these on the fly. So not a whole lot of reasoning here. Except for...
I was covering you. I was doing such a good job of covering you.
I felt it would be a little weird if I just like, yeah, it's this guy, and this guy, and no reasoning. I do have Carlos Sainz for P5. I just think that's kind of right around where the Ferraris are going to be slotting in this time. And he did have a really good performance around here last year, pretty much fighting with Leclerc all the way up to the end. But we're just going to have to see how it goes this time. I think he'll be slotting in the P5. Alonso just squeezing in at the end of the points. That seems kind of where Aston Martin is able to get on a good day right now. And then Yuki Tsunoda had a poor timeout in Zandvoort, and I think we might see a little bit more of that this time. So I've got Tsunoda slotting into P15.
We'll have to see. And this is what you get when you come to a preview episode. This is where we kind of go off the rails a little bit because there's really not all that much. We're not, jam packed with stuff to talk about. So we go a little bit crazy. So this is what we do. We do this all the time. So we like to laugh about it. But I was doing a radio thing there, man. I thought we had it.
I know, and you were doing a good job, but I just felt like the fans needed to know.
Well, it will at least explain, if you're watching it on YouTube, the face you made. At least that makes sense with the face that you made. Because I saw that and I'm like, they're going to have no clue what's going on. But anyway.
No.
Behind the scenes. It's been a couple weeks. Let's put it that way. Anyway, our prop bet, as we will move on. Do the Tifosi get to rejoice on Sunday with a Ferrari on the podium? I did at one point have a red car, and then you told me Ferrari might be running a black livery, and then I tried to look it up, and then I realized it's just black numbering, which is horribly disappointing. It's still going to be a red car with just black numbers. Fine. But black race suits in 95-degree heat. Yes, let's do that. Oh, I actually now really feel bad for both Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc now. I'm sure they'll have the cool suits on. I'm sure everyone will have the cool suits on the grid this Sunday. But anyway, are we going to see the Tifosi be happy? Cody, what's your thought?
I am going to double down with my Leclerc on the podium. I guess I could have tried to squeeze a point out no matter how it went, but I'm going to double down and say that yes, we are going to see a Ferrari on the podium. And yeah, I saw those black clothes that they're going to wear for this, and I gotta say they kind of like the clothes look a little ugly, if I'm being perfectly honest. I was excited at the prospect of the black car, but yeah, now that you said that, it's just like, oh, it's black numbers. It just makes me think that nothing really disappoints quite in the same way as a Ferrari special livery.
Or a Ferrari tease job, because, the one they did for when we all thought it was going to be the blue car is still the ultimate of tease jobs that didn't pay off. But anyway, it's supposed to be a red car. That's what Enzo wanted. I get it. It's fine. Everyone will know what it is. But I don't think we're going to see quite the full happy Tifosi. Ferrari actually have a rather big task on their hands to try to get into this mix here. You've got McLaren on good form. You've got Red Bull trying to bounce back. You've got Mercedes that you're going to have to fight off, who are coming, getting closer and closer, it seems, every race. If they, don't do the setup thing that ever they did in Zandvoort, they would have been right in the mix. They're going to have to fight it, and they're bringing, I think, some updates to this track. It's a hard track probably to do the evaluation of updates, I would tend to think, because there's not a whole lot of aero evaluation because you're just full throttle all the time. But that having said, I think they're going to be in there. They're going to be in the mix, but I don't know that I don't have them coming home on the podium. I just can't see it. So I'm going to say no to the prop bet for that. However, I will be perfectly excited if a Ferrari does make it, because the Tifosi went in that podium in that situation is a beautiful thing to see. Mm-hmm. All right. So when and where can you watch your F1 this weekend? ESPN family of networks, they are a bit odd this weekend because I think ESPN is showing the U.S. Open tennis tournament, so it's not as straightforward as it would have been in other places. Friday, FP1 kicks off 7:30 a.m. Eastern. That is on ESPN2. FP2 is 11 a.m. Eastern. That's on ESPNU. not ESPN News, so ESPN U. FP3 will kick off 6:30 a.m. bright and early Eastern time, so 5:30 a.m. here as the sun's coming up, or it may still be a little bit dark. That's going to be on ESPN2. Qualifying kicks off 10 a.m. Eastern, ESPN2, and the main race on Sunday will kick off. Lights go out 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. That is on big ESPN. F1 TV, also the other alternative if you don't get your ESPN family of networks. Also would highly recommend. Do a combination of both. I watched main screen on ESPN, and I got my 2 onboards going on F1 TV. I love it. It's great. All right, Cody, any final thoughts as we head into the Monza weekend? Second to last of the European races, because I keep forgetting about Baku.
I am a fan of Monza. I'm going to try my damnedest to watch this one live. It is going to be rough because I'm going to be at the Pearl Jam concert at Wrigley Field the night before. So it's going to be a rough morning getting up for that one, but I am going to try because I think this will be a good one to see live.
I may have the same issue. I might. I haven't decided if I'm going to do this. I am looking at IndyCar tickets because they are in the at the Milwaukee Mile, returning to the Milwaukee Mile for the first time in a long time. The only one that looks viable for me would be Saturday night. So I'm trying to see if I can pull it off. I have a little bit of research to do, but I have gotten some DMs from Mr. Formula, who I know is going to be there. So if I happen to stand on the DMs from my personal Twitter, if I do happen to secure tickets, I will let you know. So maybe we can get together and we can have a beer in Lando's honor. So we'll see if we can make that happen. But until then, so we will be back after all of the track action on Sunday or maybe Monday, because it's a holiday weekend for us. Not sure when we're actually going to do the recording. We may both need to do some recovering depending on how our respective Saturdays go. So anyway, we will leave that kind of open-ended at this point. I don't want to commit us to anything, but we will definitely be back with a review of all the Monza action. So for Cody, it's been Andy. Always fun to do this. Hope you enjoyed some of when we go a little bit off the rails this one. And as always, may all your laps be fast.